The pull of absence is not gentle. It rips at the nerves like a phantom hand, leaving you restless in the dark. The screen of your phone glows cold, yet no message arrives. His silence does not simply leave a space. It becomes a presence of its own, pressing against your chest like heavy marble. Every second stretches, each one sharpening the hunger until the absence itself becomes louder than any word he could speak. This is where obsession takes root, not in what is given, but in what is withheld. You know this pain because it is familiar. The unanswered call, the empty chair at the table, the flicker of typing that disappears before a sentence is born. His absence casts you into a labyrinth where every corner echoes with why. You search for meaning in fragments, a tone of voice, a delay, a sigh, but all you find is the hollow silence expanding. And in that hollow, something primitive awakens, the shadow. It is the part of you that fears abandonment yet hungers for power, the part that feels invisible yet burns to be seen. Carl Jung warned that what we repress becomes what rules us. And here, in the pull of absence, the shadow begins its reign. Obsession is not love. It is possession by an unseen archetype, a haunting force that whispers through the corridors of your mind. The lover you chase is not simply him. It is the phantom of what he represents. His absence mirrors the abandoned child within you, the little girl who once waited for someone to return and feared they never would. That ancient wound stitches itself into the present moment, binding you to his silence as if it were destiny. And yet, it is not destiny, it is projection. You are not drawn to him, but to your own unhealed abyss reflected in his withdrawal. Imagine the archetype at play here, Persephone, the maiden torn into the underworld. Her disappearance from the surface is what makes the earth wither. She becomes the symbol of absence itself, and her captivity feeds the myth of longing. In you, Persephone stirs when he withdraws, pulling you into the darkness of waiting, obsessing, hungering. But you are not only Persephone. You are also Lilith, the banished one, the defiant feminine who refused to submit. While Persephone embodies the pain of being taken, Lilith embodies the power of walking away. These two archetypes wrestle within you when absence cuts deep. The shadow truth of obsession is that it is less about him, and more about the void he uncovers inside you. That void terrifies you because it feels endless, like staring into a fractured mirror that reflects only the parts of you you've disowned. You think you crave him, but really you crave wholeness. You crave the integration of that shadow, the part that begs, clings, panics. To integrate is to stop running from her, to stop despising her desperation, and instead, to hear what she wants to reveal. She is not weakness, she is the map. In the everyday world, this looks simple. You wait by the phone, your breath shallow. Hours pass, your mind invents stories. Maybe he's busy, maybe he's punishing you, maybe he doesn't care. The silence eats at your dignity until you feel reduced, like a moth circling a flame that never burns but never lets you rest. Each imagined scenario stabs at the soft flesh of your worth. And the cruelest truth is this: he does not need to do anything. His absence is the weapon. You supply the rest. This is the dangerous alchemy of absence. It transforms into obsession because your psyche cannot stand the vacuum. Nature abhors emptiness, so the mind fills the void with him over and over until your identity bends around his silence. You become the one waiting, the one chasing, the one needing. And still, the silence continues, cold as stone, deaf as marble. It is in this crucible that your shadow either consumes you or transforms you. Consider this: the shadow, when unintegrated, makes you beg for crumbs. But the shadow, when embraced, turns absence into fuel. To feel the ache of being unseen without fleeing it, to breathe into that gnawing void without trying to plug it with his attention. This is how the alchemy begins. Absence is not a punishment when you no longer fear it. It is a mirror showing you the shape of your hunger. And once you see it clearly, the hunger loses its power to control you. But until that moment, obsession seduces. It whispers. If only he noticed, if only he returned, if only the silence broke, you would be whole again. That whisper is the trickster voice of the anima projection, binding your soul to his absence. It lures you into believing that your worth lies in his recognition, that your beauty requires his gaze, that your existence depends on his return. But the truth, harsh, raw, liberating, is that his absence is not about you. It is about him. And your obsession is not about him. It is about you. So the question rises, sharp and unavoidable. What if the pull of absence is not meant to bind you, but to awaken you? Why? If the silence is the crucible where the maiden becomes the queen, where the banished Lilith reclaims her throne? What if the very thing that torments you is the doorway into power you have not yet dared to claim? The silence is not hollow, it is full of messages. The question is, will you keep circling the empty flame, or will you step into the fire itself? To step into the fire is to stop fleeing from the ache. You let it sear you, strip you, expose you. This is the work of individuation, where the shadow, instead of dragging you into obsession, becomes the lantern that guides you out. Jung wrote that the shadow holds 90% gold, only 10% darkness. That gold is your power, buried under shame. And the shame here is raw, shame of wanting too much, of caring too deeply, of being the one who waits. Yet when you dare to stand inside that shame without flinching, you begin to notice something miraculous. The shame dissolves, and in its place, a strange, steady flame appears. Picture the archetype whispering beneath your ribs, the queen. She is not the anxious maiden nor the exiled Lilith. She is the one who knows absence does not diminish her. The queen does not beg for presence because she already fills the room with her own. Her gaze is weight, her silence an empire. Absence cannot starve her because she feeds from within. The queen archetype is not fantasy. She lives in you, dormant, waiting for the shadow to be integrated so she may rise. But to summon her, you must face the voice of obsession directly. Let us enter that voice for a moment. Imagine his inner thoughts as he notices your hunger. He may not say it aloud, but he feels the pull. To him, your energy circles like a moth in heat, desperate, unrelenting. He senses it not as love, but as gravity, a demand that he cannot satisfy. And part of him recoils, not because you are unworthy, but because obsession suffocates. To him, your silence does not feel like absence. It feels like pressure. He carries the weight of your unspoken need, and in that weight, his own freedom shrinks. Now shift back into yourself. Feel the sting of hearing that perspective. It wounds because it exposes the cycle. Your hunger drives him away, his withdrawal deepens your hunger. This is not fate, it is pattern. And once you see it, you can interrupt it. The shadow reveals its gold when you understand that his absence is not a punishment, but a mirror. It shows you where your power leaks out, where you outsource your worth, where you hand your throne to another. Transformation begins when you reframe the absence. Instead of waiting, you enter it. Instead of fearing the silence, you claim it. What does that mean in the physical world? It means when he does not call, you do not shrink, you expand. You let the silence be yours. You fill it with movement, with creation, with the click of your heels against marble floors, with the sound of your laughter echoing through halls he is not in. The queen does not ask, "Where is he?" She asks, "What shall I create in his silence?" And in that moment, the polarity shifts. You are no longer the one orbiting him. He begins to orbit you. But here is the paradox. You cannot fake this. You cannot pretend indifference while secretly seething with longing. The energy betrays you. To embody this shift, you must go deeper into the shadow itself. You must sit with the trembling breath, the cold sweat, the gnawing ache of invisibility. You must whisper to the part of you that still feels like the abandoned child, "I see you. I will not leave you." That act of inner witnessing breaks the spell. You stop begging him to rescue you from your hunger, because you are the one who rescues yourself. This is where the myth of Persephone transforms. She is no longer the maiden dragged into darkness. She becomes the queen of the underworld, sovereign in the very place she once feared. The underworld, your shadow, your obsession, your emptiness, becomes your realm. The absence no longer imprisons you, it crowns you. And Lilith, once banished, returns not in bitterness but in radiance. She becomes the fierce companion of the queen, reminding you never again to kneel where you should stand. The man who once held power through his silence now faces a new reality. He feels your withdrawal, but not as punishment. He feels your presence radiating in his absence, and something in him shifts. The hunger that once belonged to you now stirs in him. He begins to wonder, where are you? What fills you when he is gone? The polarity inverts. Absence, once your wound, becomes your weapon. But the deepest truth is this: it was never about him. The obsession was never about his worth. It was about reclaiming the parts of you that had been hidden, disowned, banished. The shadow does not disappear when you integrate it. It becomes your source of power. And obsession, when transmuted, becomes magnetism. Magnetism is the natural state of a woman who knows low. Jung fears absence because she has discovered the inexhaustible fire within. So the pull of absence is real, but it does not have to be a curse. It can be the forge. Each unanswered text, each empty chair, each silence that once humiliated you, these are sparks. They burn away the illusions. They carve the path from maiden to queen. They return you at last to yourself. And yet the story is not finished. For in the silence, another archetypal voice stirs, one that whispers from the shadowed corners of myth. Not Persephone, not Lilith, not even the queen, but something older, darker, waiting to be named. The question lingers, will you hear her? She whispers from the threshold between night and dawn, from the place where longing turns into power. She is Hecate, the goddess of crossroads, the keeper of torches, the one who stands where three paths meet. When absence twists you into obsession, you stand at such a crossroads. One path keeps you trapped in repetition, begging for crumbs. Another path leads into denial, pretending you do not feel the hunger though it devours you inside. But the third path, Hecate's path, is where you hold the torch to your own shadow, illuminating the way forward. At this crossroad, you are asked to choose. The fire of your obsession can burn you, or it can light your way. If you let it burn you, you shrink, chasing, clinging, dissolving into someone else's silence. If you let it guide you, you see with piercing clarity. Absence was never emptiness. It was initiation. It was the invitation to turn inward, to claim the authority you once outsourced. Hecate whispers, "Do not fear the dark, it is yours to command." And suddenly, silence does not feel so heavy. Instead of cold marble pressing against your chest, it feels like vast space, an expanse where you can breathe again. The obsession loses its claws when you realize it is not about filling the void with him, but about realizing the void is already full, with your own potential, your own archetypal fire. You stop gripping the phone with trembling hands. You let it rest on the table. The silence no longer threatens to annihilate you. It becomes the throne room of your becoming. But before this shift fully roots, the shadow tests you. It resurfaces in the everyday moments. You hear a notification and your heart leaps, only to find it is not him. You feel the sting, the humiliation of caring too much. Hear the shadow sneer, "See, you are still weak, you are still desperate." But this is the trick. The shadow is not mocking you. It is challenging you to respond differently. Instead of collapsing, you breathe. You feel the heat of shame rise, and instead of drowning in it, you let it pass through. In this moment, the shadow begins to trust you. And with trust, it reveals more gold. What is that gold? It is the magnetic quality of presence. Presence is born not from being noticed, but from noticing yourself. When you integrate the hunger, your very body begins to shift. Your shoulders straighten, not because you force them, but because the weight of waiting has fallen off. Your laughter changes. It is no longer a plea, it is a vibration that fills the room. Your silence thickens, but not with despair, with mystery. This is the kind of silence that makes others lean in, sensing something they cannot name. Absence, once your prison, now becomes your allure. And here lies the paradox men rarely admit. What first drew him to you was never need. It was your essence, your mystery, the way you carried something untouchable. When obsession took over, that essence dimmed. But when you reclaim it, he feels the shift like gravity. He notices without knowing why. He may reach for you, not because you demanded it, but because the polarity has inverted again. You have become the flame, not the moth. And he, whether he admits it or not, feels the pull. Yet the ultimate empowerment is not in whether he returns. It is in realizing you no longer wait. The absence no longer dictates your state. Whether he texts or vanishes, whether he sits beside you or leaves an empty chair, you remain whole. You have crossed from maiden to queen, guided by Hecate's torch through the dark. This is individuation, not the fantasy of being rescued, but the reality of becoming sovereign. From this sovereignty, you can finally see obsession for what it was, a distorted devotion, a misdirected intensity. That intensity itself was never the problem. It is sacred fire. When misplaced, it burns you alive. When reclaimed, it becomes magnetism, creativity, vision. The same passion that once kept you awake at night waiting for his message now keeps you awake building your empire, shaping your destiny, deepening your relationships with those who mirror your value. The energy was always yours. You only lent it to his absence. And so the circular truth returns. The pull of absence is real, but it is not fatal. It is an initiation rite. The silence is not hollow, it is the drum beat of your own rebirth. To integrate the shadow is to stand in that silence and hear the rhythm that was always yours. The rhythm of your breath, steady, strong. The rhythm of your heels against marble floors. The rhythm of your laughter echoing through spaces that no longer feel empty. But still, the story holds one more descent. For empowerment is not a straight climb. It curves, circles, spirals. You will feel the hunger again, the ache, the temptation to fall back into old patterns. And in that moment, the archetypes gather around you. Persephone reminding you that descent can lead to sovereignty. Lilith reminding you never to kneel. Hecate holding her torch at the crossroad. They do not remove your pain. They remind you who you are becoming through it. The final question remains. When absence returns, and it always does, what will you make of it? Will it chain you or crown you? Absence will return as surely as night follows day. He will retreat again into silence, or another will. And the test will not be whether you can stop the ache. It will be whether you can meet it differently. This is the spiral of growth, not the straight line. Each cycle brings you back to the same wound, but each time you arrive with more strength, more clarity, more sovereignty. What once drowned you now only wets your feet. What once shattered you now merely ripples the surface of your reflection. And here another truth emerges. The more you embody this sovereignty, the less you find yourself attracted to those who withhold. The old hunger for the unavailable begins to dissolve because the archetype that once sought them out, Persephone, the captive, has matured. You no longer crave the drama of absence because you have discovered the ecstasy of presence. Not his presence, yours. And with that shift, the entire pattern collapses. You stop magnetizing men who play with withdrawal. You begin to attract those who can stand in your fire without flinching. This is the subtle magnetism that terrifies and fascinates. The man who once used absence as power finds his tool useless against you. His silence does not provoke desperation. It provokes curiosity. Instead of waiting, you create. Instead of spiraling, you expand. Your energy no longer leaks toward him, it circles within you, feeding the life you are building. He may return, puzzled, drawn, unsettled, or he may not. But either way, you are no longer chained to his decisions. You are sovereign. And this sovereignty is not cold detachment. It is not armor, not indifference. It is heat. It is the warm glow of a fire that does not beg anyone to approach, yet draws them naturally. Jung called this individuation, the union of the conscious self with the unconscious, the dance of light and shadow. You embody it not by rejecting your longing, but by integrating it. The ache you once feared becomes the very fuel that ignites your radiance. Picture the everyday scene transformed. Once you sat at the table with an empty chair staring at the door. Now you sit at the same table, but the chair no longer defines you. The candlelight flickers against fractured mirrors on the wall, and you do not see absence. You see multiplicity, your many selves reflected and alive. Once the phone screen mocked you with its silence. Now you glance at it with ease, knowing that whether it lights up or not, your life continues in rhythm, in power, in fullness. The silence that once felt like punishment now feels like a pause in the symphony, heightening the next note. And as this transformation settles, a paradox reveals itself. The less you chase, the more the world chases you. Men feel the shift, but so do women, friends, strangers. People lean toward you without knowing why. It is not because you are louder, but because your silence carries weight. It is not because you are flawless, but because you embody contrast, shadow and light, hunger and wholeness. Magnetism is born from integration, not perfection. It is the chiaroscuro of your being that draws the eye, the ear, the soul. But this is not merely about attraction. It is about power. The power to stand at the crossroads and choose. The power to look at absence and see not emptiness but potential. The power to feel the ache of obsession and transmute it into creation. This is the gift of the shadow. It strips you until only the essence remains. And that essence is indestructible. Yet empowerment does not erase tenderness. You will still long, you will still desire. The difference is that desire no longer enslaves you. It moves through you like music, not like chains. You can want without collapsing, love without losing yourself, wait without withering. This is the sacred balance of the feminine, open yet rooted, receptive yet sovereign, soft yet unbreakable. The queen does not refuse love, she simply refuses to starve for it. So when absence comes again, remember the imagery. The empty chair is not a void, it is a throne awry. Ting Yu, the silent phone is not rejection, it is space for your own voice to grow louder. The dark underworld is not exile, it is the realm where Persephone became queen. And when you feel the ache rise in your chest, when the shadow whispers its familiar stories, place your hand over your heart and hear Hecate's voice at the crossroads. Choose the path where you become more, always more. For the deepest truth is that obsession was never the end. It was the beginning. The crack in your armor that let the archetypes in, that forced you to face the shadow that led you to the throne within. Without the silence, you would not have sought your own voice. Without the absence, you would not have discovered your own presence. Without the wound, you would not have touched the fire. And so the circle closes, yet not as it began. The wound is still there, but it no longer bleeds. It burns, not with shame, but with power. The absence that once chained you now crowns you. The silence that once haunted you now serves you. And obsession, once your tormentor, has become your teacher. But one last symbol remains. The shadow has revealed its gold, the queen has risen, the torch of Hecate has guided you. What archetype stands ahead, waiting at the edge of this path? You will know her when you meet her. She is the one who does not fear the void at all, because she knows she is the void. She is the next embodiment. She is the dark star, the woman who draws others not by chasing light, but by radiating her own gravity. The dark star is not like the queen, who rules her throne, nor like Persephone, who learns sovereignty through descent, nor like Lilith, who rebels in exile. She is older still, cosmic in nature. She embodies the truth that absence itself can be magnetic. The dark star does not shine with obvious light. She pulls with gravity, with depth, with silence that is alive. Others feel her before they see her, drawn by an invisible current they cannot explain. This is the ultimate alchemy of obsession. When you stop fearing the void, you become the void. Not hollow, but infinite. Not needy, but irresistible. Imagine her presence in the everyday. She enters a room, and it is not her beauty alone that arrests attention. It is the weight of her gaze, the stillness that makes people lower their voices. She does not fill space with noise. She bends space around her. She knows the power of pause, the art of absence within presence. Even when she walks away, the echo of her heels lingers, the memory of her nearness sharp as a whisper in the ear. To embody the dark star is to realize that absence was never your enemy. It was always your rawest form of power, waiting to be claimed. And here the circle closes fully. Remember the opening wound, the phone that stayed silent, the empty chair, the cold marble pressing against your chest. Once these moments crushed you. They turned your longing into obsession, your desire into humiliation. But now, when the silence stretches, it no longer drags you into despair. You sit with it, regal and calm, hearing not rejection but rhythm. The absence is still there, but instead of consuming you, it revolves around you. You have become the center. You have become the pull. This is not fantasy. It is psychology, myth, embodiment. Jung knew that what we repress controls us until we integrate it. You have integrated the shadow, the hunger, the shame, the desperation, and found its gold. You have stepped into the mythic roles of Persephone, Lilith, Hecate, and now the dark star, each one teaching you a facet of feminine power. You are no longer fragmented. You are no longer circling a man's silence like a moth circling flame. You are the fire. You are the night sky. You are the gravity that bends reality around you. And in this embodiment, relationships shift. Men sense your depth and cannot play their old games. Silence no longer manipulates you because silence belongs to you. You know how to wield it as art, as mystery, as magnetism. You are not cold, you are burning from the inside, but in a way that is sovereign, not desperate. Those who are strong enough will come closer. Those who are not will retreat. And both outcomes serve you because you no longer define your worth by their choice. You define it by your own being. The gift of this transformation is not only in love or attraction. It spills into every corner of life. In work, you carry an aura that commands respect without a word. In friendships, you hold boundaries without apology. In solitude, you are not restless but alive because you are no longer waiting, you are creating. The same energy that once chained you to a silent phone now fuels your visions, your art, your empire. This is individuation, reclaiming the exiled parts of yourself and becoming whole. And so, when you next feel the pull of absence, pause. Do not rush to fill it. Do not collapse under its weight. Sit in it like a queen, stand at it like Lilith, walk through it with Hecate's torch and radiate it like the dark star. Feel the ache, but also feel the gravity in your bones. What once felt like emptiness is now the echo of your own vastness. You no longer ask, "Why doesn't he return?" You ask, "What is awakening in me through this silence?" This is the shadow truth of obsession. It was never about him. It was always about you. His absence was the mirror that revealed your hunger, your shadow, your forgotten fire. You do not need to curse it or romanticize it. You only need to integrate it. Once you do, the obsession dissolves, and what remains is power, quiet, magnetic, undeniable. Now return to the opening image. The phone glowing cold, the silence pressing like marble, the waiting. Only now imagine yourself there again. The phone does not buzz, the chair across the table remains empty. But you are not broken. You lean back, the weight of your gaze filling the room. You hear your own laughter echo against the walls. You feel the torch of Hecate in your hand, the crown of Persephone on your head, the defiance of Lilith in your blood, the gravity of the dark star in your chest. The absence has not disappeared, but you have transformed. And in that transformation, absence bends around you. The pull remains, but now it pulls toward you.